Okay, today I'm going to be doing something, actually I'm going to be doing some work. I'm going to basically show people how to remove a bushing out of a radiator. I'm going to grab a couple of tools. I have my tools with me here. I have my radiator, which I'm going to be working on, and I also have, you take a look. There's something else that I have to remove out of there also, and that's the old nipple from the last cutoff valve that was in this radiator. Now, at this present time, I do not have the bushing that I want to replace it with. I gotta see if the hardware store perhaps can get it for tomorrow. Wrench. Smaller pipe wrench. Primary tools that you need when it comes down to removing a old cutoff valve nipple out of a radiator are essentially these two tools right here. This is what is called a radiator spud wrench. I've adjusted it, or better, I cut ends of or certain parts of the wrench off so I can work with many different radiators, whether it be steel convectors or cast iron convectors or cast iron radiators or self-standing cast iron radiators, like the one that I'm about to work on now. Now they do come in full lengths, so that's the size that they always come in. I just customize them so I can be able to work on various different types of radiators. Now I do have a full length valve inside of my apartment, but I don't need it in this case. The smaller size it comes down to is about 1/2 inch. Alright, so let's take a look. The goal right now is to remove this nipple out of the radiator. Now when I do these things, I always use a little Teflon tape and pipe dope, so it shouldn't be that difficult to take out. I'm going to attempt to do this with this one here. No, this is too large. With this one. Hopefully it should come right out. I might have to use a wrench for whatever reason because my wrist is really killing me. So I don't want to put too much weight on my wrist. Oh, it comes right out. Easier done than said. Which is a beautiful thing. In many cases, where one of these might have been in the radiator for so many years, a lot of the time plumbers don't use Teflon tape like I do. For whatever reason, I don't know why. But the after effect of that is that this normally gets stuck. It freezes inside the radiator, and usually the way you have to get it out is by cutting it out with a sawzall. Now in this case, when it comes down to this bushing here, I'm going to have to cut that out, unfortunately, because it's been there since the radiator was initially set up. So in order to do that, put my tool over here. Put the wrenches down for a second. Basically, I'm going to set up my sawzall. A very important tool when it actually comes down to dealing with a lot of work. Sawzall is a universal tool that experts have. It's a good tool just to have in your house in case of anything that can come up. I've got different blades here. I'm going to use an old one and hopefully see what can be done with this old one. Okay. Blade is secure. There's a few other things that I need to have before I actually start cutting this bushing out of the radiator. Safety goggles. important tool to have. To just clean them down before I actually put them on, so I can see a little better. Because you don't want no fragments of especially metal flying into your eyes, so it's best to have a pair of safety goggles, and even in some cases safety gloves. I didn't take the time to grab a pair of those. I think I actually got to go out and buy them, so I'm gonna have to work without it, but I'll be all right. Now I'm gonna flip the radiator upside down. This is how I do it. I don't know how other people do it, but cutting the bushing out is the easiest way that I've been able to achieve this. So now I'm going to plug up my sawzall. Into my drop light, which I have here. Make sure the sawzall is at the maximum speed setting. And we are going to, okay, I gotta turn it the opposite way, so I can cut it this way. Here we go. Not done yet. Let me get a look in there. Let's see how deep the cut is. See, the first way I normally cut, I cut it flat right up to the threads itself of the radiator. Cut through the threads of the bushing into the threads of the radiator so I can at least get a clear view and see where I'm at. Take these off for a second. And then once I do that, I can get to work on the bushing, which I'm about to do right now. Actually, I have to back up my camcorder a little something. Okay. Oops. Too fast. I think we're pretty much ready to go. Okay, so the next step of this is we're going to see if we can turn it. So I can get this to turn. So I believe I cut enough. There we go. It pops right out. that was relatively easier than I thought it would be. In this case, let's see if I can give you guys a clear look. Take a look into that. Right. Now I cut just a little bit into the threads. That's not a major issue to worry about because it's mainly the back threads that have more of the deeper cuts into it. But when I get the new bushing and I put Teflon tape on it and put pipe dope, that'll basically seal that up. And what I'm converting this bushing from is a 1-inch bushing to an inch. I mean, sorry about that. This is the bushing that I just cut out of this radiator is a 1.5 inch bushing by 1 inch, and basically that is a smaller valve size for the radiator. But I'm going to convert from that size to 1.5 inches to 1 inch. So I'll be, 1.5 inches to 1.25 inches. So I'll be able to put a larger size valve on there. And I always take a little time to clean out my threads when I'm done. Get a little wire brush, a little piece of Brillo if you have, to clean it down. That is, you gotta be very precise when you do this, because if you cut too deep into the thread, you can completely ruin the radiator, and that pretty much cancels that out for you, so you won't be able to use it again. So you gotta know exactly what you're doing. Now the next thing I'm going to attempt to do is get some WD-40 and spray it down. And this is just a better way to further clean out the threads. So when you put your new piping inside of it, or cutoff valve or bushing, it pretty much tightens up a little better, has a better grip, and less distortion inside of it. Okay, so that's pretty much done for this here. Now I'm going to take my radiator. Pipe wrench, put that away because I don't need it. And that's done. Now it just needs a little painting and I'll pretty much be good to go. Now this is a radiator I'm going to be installing in an apartment. I'm actually replacing one of the radiators that is actually in the apartment now that's leaking. So this is going to be a suitable replacement. This radiator doesn't have any cracks. This is a perfect setup. And honestly, if you know what you're doing, it is relatively easy to do these jobs. I mean, I can convert any universal radiator to operate on any type of, whether it be steam or hot water heating system. I can convert it. There's many different ways and tricks that I use. I just wanted to give people just a brief description of some of the things to do when it comes down to actually installing a radiator. If you have the proper tools, you pretty much can do it. If you're working with an old radiator, more than likely, if you're trying to convert it to fit your system, you're probably going to wind up having to have a sawzall, so you can cut certain parts of it out, or cut out certain bushings and nipples that can cause the radiator not to be able to fit into your system. Now this is a radiator that's set up for a 1-pipe heating system. And basically you have the inlet over here and behind. So I'll flip that around for you. You have your slot for your air vents. So the only thing I'm going to do now with this is paint it and prepare for installation. Put my new cutoff valve on, the new air valve on this side here. Give me a second, I'm going to take the cap off for this. Install my new bushing and cutoff valve over here, and that's pretty much it for that. And this is another project I'm working on here. As you see, I got a gas Wiley McLean steam boiler, and I'll give you some more updates on this as I decide exactly how I'm going to this is basically a test boiler which I'm using to perfect my craft. I actually took the time to purchase this boiler, and I got some ideas for it, and I'll talk about those more down the line. Just I did some small configurations to it. I really don't plan to run it off of gas if I ever get it running the way I want to. But I'm gonna do a couple of things that I wanted to test. This is a plate for a heat exchanger to go inside of this section here. And there's a lot more that I want to understand about the heat exchangers. And also, this is a heat exchanger in here also, which is known as the domestic hot water coil, which I did on my previous boiler video. And it basically is what gives you domestic hot water. So in due time, I'll do another video on this, and I'll just give some updates. I've seen quite a few interesting videos that I've seen from people. Okay, there we go. So I'll be doing one of my own. Nevertheless, and this is another Joule steamer boiler that I purchased a couple of years back to run a small test. Unfortunately, this doesn't give enough steam pressure or steam capacity or volume to be able to do some of the things that I would like to do and experiment on. But nevertheless, you know, this is my tips on removing removing bushings and things of that nature out of radiators. As you see in my shop here, I got quite a few different radiators. This is a cast iron convector, also known as an RO convector, which these are no longer made. This is a double header radiator. You get two different sides that give off heat, and these actually give off quite a bit of heat. I don't know why they stopped manufacturing these. These were excellent the way they made them. This is a traditional self-standing cast iron radiator. And in a lot of cases, if you have an apartment or a home where you have these types of radiators, in a lot of cases, if you need to replace them, you can find them. A lot of times people throw them out because they simply don't want them, because in some cases they give off too much heat. But in this case, you can easily salvage some of these radiators yourself and be able to reuse them. And a lot of times they'll outlast buildings, they'll outlast houses, they'll outlast many different structures. And last but not least, this is another small cast iron convector. And these, I'm all refurbishing these and doing a little work trying to get these back up and running, which shouldn't be a big issue. And this is the smaller, the new modern cast iron radiators. And what you're looking at here, these are the jets from my gas boiler, the burner jets, which I've removed out of there. But nevertheless, if you watched my channel before, then you realize my channel is in the defense of those who think logic and those who make sense. This is HKABID TV.